Hi, I'm Stefan.
I'm Tatiana.
And we are the Passionate Few.
I really enjoyed listening to the interview with Omar and Stefan. I thought that Omar did such a great job at asking questions related to business and relationships and really got deep with Stefan about his story, and I thought that was really fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, meeting Omar and having the interview was amazing. He is very professional, got me to open up in ways and share things that I'd never normally shared before. Moments from my childhood, my past, the challenges, the struggles, the insecurities that I had to go through and overcome, which I think can really benefit a lot of people because they can relate to it. We went into business, we went into the mindset and what it really takes to build a successful business. And it was also great that Tatiana can join as well. You know, she was able to share her experience about how we met, her journey with her business, and the journey of our relationship, which I really believe can inspire a lot of relationships out there. So I think this is something that could benefit you in your business, but also watch it with your partner. And I hope you guys enjoyed this interview.
Welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast. Today we have an awesome episode where Omar actually gets to sit down with the power couple Stefan James and his wife Tatiana. Stefan starts off by talking about his journey of entrepreneurship and how he went from being a lonely kid with not many friends to ultimately learning the power of communication and applying that to dating, then also to digital marketing. We then get to hear how Stefan evolved from that to creating his own YouTube channel after finding success in his niche, which led him to create what is now known as Project Life Mastery. We also get the privilege of hearing from his wife, Tatiana, on how the couple was able to build a powerful relationship and impact hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. And in this interview, they speak about the rituals and standards that took them from being just an average couple with a dream to essentially living the life of their dreams. So without further ado, I want to encourage you guys to relax, sit back, and enjoy this amazing interview with the power couple themselves, Stefan James and his soulmate, Tatiana.
Thanks so much for being on the show today, Stefan.
Brother. Appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. So let's get right into it. A lot of people may or may not know you from YouTube. You're almost at 1 million subscribers, right? You've got almost 700,000 subscribers at the time of this recording. But before you became this, coach and entrepreneur, multimillionaire through various means, where did you sort of grow up, and what was your childhood like? Take us to the very beginning of where you grew up, what your childhood was like, and how you got to sort of where you're at today.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I grew up in Vancouver, Canada. That's where my family is. And I grew up just a simple life. It's pretty shy growing up. That was the biggest thing that most people that know me would just, I didn't say anything to anyone. I was just a quiet kid. I would always kind of be around, but people would ask, does he talk? Does he even communicate?
Right.
And so I was just very shy.
You would have never thought you had a YouTube channel with millions of viewers, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably the least likely person anyone would expect to have a YouTube channel. But I had a kind of a difficult upbringing. My parents fought a lot of arguments around the household. My dad is Greek, and so he's very old school and had a temper, yell a lot, very much like nothing was ever good enough. So that was kind of a struggle growing up with that. And then my parents struggle with money. Always fighting around money. My parents went through a bankruptcy at one point, which is very challenging. We had to move several times. I went to 3 different high schools. And so that, for me, that was challenging, and I kind of always felt like the outsider. And for me also, I was very addicted. I felt just uncomfortable, I think, growing up too, that I looked for ways to escape. And I got into video games, and for me, that became a huge addiction. My dad always had a family business and always expected myself and my older brother and sister, we always had to work for the family business.
What business was it?
It was different. He had different types of businesses. At one point, it was doing curved glass. So he'd make glass for houses and tabletops and countertops and everything. Another point, it was bathtubs, acrylic bathtubs, sinks and showers. Another point, it was limestone fireplaces. So always different types of construction things that my dad's belief was that the kids always had to contribute. We had to spend our weekends to go to the warehouse, work, and help out. There's always a struggle, my parents fighting over that, because my mom wanted us to have a childhood, to have fun, to be with other kids. But my dad always fought that we had to go and work and help out. Even our summer breaks. For me, I'd always complain because I wanted to be with my friends or have fun, but my dad would make us go to work. And when I was a kid, like I had to sweep the floors, like clean the showroom, like all these little things, put together the flyers and brochures. And so it was challenging, but I think there's a lot of positives that came from that. Like I learned how to work hard. I learned how to make sacrifices in my life and be disciplined. Some of the challenges were that my dad he never really reinforced any of the positive. It was always, you did this wrong or this is not good enough. And so that kind of created a bit of an insecurity within myself, I'd say, growing up. And
did it also create some resentment towards the business?
Yeah, I didn't have a good relationship with my dad. There's points I hated my dad.
Right.
I just didn't have a connection with him. I didn't have that relationship that I wanted, which was, I'd see my other friends have fun with their dads or go camping or on trips. So I never really had that kind of relationship with him. I was more closer to my mom. And
it was more
also,
dictatorial, sort of.
Yeah. And I'd say I was also very feminine too. Like I didn't have a strong masculine figure to model. In fact, I think part of me kind of, we kind of model ourselves either after our parents or we kind of rebel against it.
Right.
And for me, my dad was an example of who not to be, right? I was trying to avoid and not become what he was, and I became more like my mom. I'd say more of a pleaser, more feminized, I guess.
Right.
And so, when I was in high school, very shy, moved high schools 3 times. Not a good student. I was like a C minus student. Skipped a lot of school. I hated school. Never did my homework. Didn't have much motivation to learn. They thought I had a learning disability. I was dyslexic, they thought at one point. So I just didn't enjoy that at all. I just was looking for ways to escape. Video games was my way to escape because I could. I used to play a lot of these role-playing games, and I was into Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a way to escape into this fantasy world, and I could actually,
reality,
and I could be someone. I could be significant because in my life, I didn't feel like I was important, but because I was good at it, I had like a high-level character, and I was, more of a popular character, I guess, in these games. That I felt that was my outlet to be significant. I was connecting with different people that we had a similar interest. So that became a big part of my life, but it also made me more and more antisocial, more and more introverted, more and more shy. And I kind of feel like I missed out in high school. I think high school is a time to really develop those social skills, right? Be around friends, go to parties. I didn't do any of that. So I felt I was very behind socially. And
did you feel socially awkward?
Oh, yeah. I had no social awareness.
Did you have any girlfriends in high school?
No.
Really?
No. I had crushes on girls. And I remember I used to get picked on a lot too because I was an easy target. Like if I'd be, a group of friends or a group of people around lunchtime, the popular kids, they would see me as a target to make fun of me or tease me as a way to elevate their status.
Yeah.
And I would never defend myself either. So it wasn't until I was about 17 years old that I hit a threshold and I felt so much pain. There's actually this one girl, I had this one experience where I lost my virginity when I was 16. And it was the first time I ever drank alcohol. It was a girl that was older than me. We actually had met through this game. Through this game that we were playing. We actually did some sort of get together in Seattle, Washington, and in Vancouver, and lost my virginity. But I was like in love with this girl, right? Because I was just so. I watched a lot of Disney movies and stuff that I thought that was
the romantic,
one. Yeah. So I kind of fell into that, and I was very needy and attached to this girl, and she didn't feel the same way. And I remember just the pain that I felt around that. I just had this horrible pain in my stomach. And it kind of got me to a point where I had to look myself in the mirror and make a decision that I was going to change my life. Like my life was not going to change until I actually did something about it. And I developed the awareness that the way I was living my life was not who I was. Like I just knew there was more. And thankfully, I discovered the world of self-development. And I discovered the Tony Robbins and the Brian Tracy's.
My man, Tony Robbins,
Deepak Chopra and Paul McKenna and all these different influencers and speakers and coaches that really opened up my eyes to the concept of improving yourself.
Because you were 18 at the time?
I was 17 years old.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because at the time before that, I didn't think you could improve. I just thought, this is who you are, you're born this way, and you're just going to live your life this way. But they made me believe, and I think that's the shift that I had, is the belief that I could be whoever I wanted to be. Like I had my whole future ahead of myself. I could condition myself. I can change my beliefs, my mindset, everything in my life about myself I could change. And that was a very empowering mentality for me.
Right.
And at that moment, I decided I got rid of all my video games, my TV, all of that, and I put all my focus and obsession into improving myself to be the best that I could be. And for me at the time, the biggest pain point, like I did not care about success or money, health, any of those things. The biggest pain point that I had was I wanted to have a girlfriend. I wanted to have friends.
Right.
When you're 17 years old, that's all you really care about. So for me, I actually discovered someone by the name of David D'Angelo. Real name is Evan Pagan.
Yeah,
right? A lot
Eben,
of men might know who that is.
Yeah, Eben and his copywriter, what's his name? Craig Clemens.
I know
That's
Craig,
right.
Yeah. So he had an ebook called Double Your Dating,
Double Your Dating,
right?
that's right.
And I remember I downloaded this ebook. I read it like 12 times. I printed it out, and totally had a paradigm shift around that. And I learned that attracting women is a learnable skill, right? That there's certain ways to communicate with the opposite sex that would elicit certain emotions or spark attraction. That who I was, that I could become attractive through my confidence and what I'm sub-communicating to people. And that was the really the first form of self-development for me, I'd say. I first joined these message boards where I'd meet other guys, we'd interact and share experiences.
Right.
And then when I was 18 years old, I went to this meetup in downtown Vancouver. It was at a McDonald's that this community of guys were getting together. Right? They get together, every single weekend, downtown Vancouver, and they'd go out and meet women and approach. And the first time I ever met them and I saw them approach women, like we'd walk down Robson Street, which is like a shopping street, and they would just like disperse and walk up to girls and make them, laugh and joke around and get their phone numbers. And it's like another paradigm shift. I was like, what? Is that even possible? Like, can you do that? And it's like the only thing you see in movies and stuff.
Right.
And then I saw that and I just totally shifted my beliefs and I realized I have to learn that. Like that's a skill I need to learn. Like, how could I go my life not learning that skill, how to meet and attract women? And then I had this one guy, his name was Casey. He's like, all right, Stefan, now it's your turn. It's your turn to go up and approach a woman. I was like, no. Like, I had every story and excuse why not to do it.
Yeah.
And he finally said, listen, there's a girl at a kiosk. She can't reject you, like she's working, so she has to be nice. And just go up and ask her for her opinion on something. So I was terrified. I was shaking. My face would turn bright red. My palms would sweat. And I went up to this girl and I had this quiet, low voice and I asked her, who do you think lies more between men and women? Right? It's like an opener.
Right.
And she responded. I wasn't even listening to what she said. I just approached and then I just ran out of there.
Right,
I just got out of there as soon as I could. But that experience changed my life because I had conquered a fear that I had, something that I didn't think was possible. I did it. And it made me realize that, wow, you know what? I can, I felt liberated from conquering that fear. And then thereafter that, I started approaching more and more women. And we'd go out every weekend. We'd approach like 10 or 12 girls, just approaching them and then walking away. And I became obsessed with that when I was 18. My whole focus was actually not even really to get dates or phone numbers. It was just to conquer the approach.
Right.
I wanted to become comfortable with discomfort. I
Yeah.
wanted to become desensitized to any fear that I had. Because I think that if I could have done that, it would translate to other areas of my life, and my whole dating life, my confidence would transform.
And I'm sure it leaked into business and life as well.
Absolutely,
So let me ask you this. So did you notice that the more you started approaching, the more the anxiety started decreasing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you get into this flow state, and it becomes almost effortless at a certain point.
And where you're outcome independent, right? Where you're emotionally calibrated regardless of what happens. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And I wouldn't just approach women, I'd approach men, groups of people. Like I did pretty wild and crazy things.
Right.
And one thing I did is I actually tracked everything. So I'd go home and I'd actually journal and write, and we used to create these field reports, right? Where you'd actually write the experiences, what did I learn from it? You debrief every approach that you did. 1 year, I actually went.
So you were like serious. You were like all in
dude,
on
I was
this.
hardcore.
Yeah.
Like I converted that video game addiction to this. This
so you wanted to be
became
a
a video
pickup
game
artist.
for me.
Was it your goal to be a pickup artist or not necessarily?
Well, I never liked that word.
Yeah.
Like for me,
No, I agree with you,
the
yeah.
connotation of that was always negative, and that's. I always kind of had that conflict within myself because I feel like that implies taking something and trying to get something versus my approach was always I wanted to leave people better off for having met me.
Right.
I wanted always to create a win-win and a positive experience for people. So for me, the approach that I've always had, and I still have this approach in my business that I teach, is adding value. So if you can add value to someone, and for me, it just might be going up to compliment that person or wish them a great day or create an amazing experience or an emotion for them, And so that was always my focus with it. So I'd, walk up to a woman. I'd always try to pre-frame things a little bit to kind of soften it and say, listen, I know this sounds strange or weird or random, but I noticed you and I just had to come up and say that you look amazing today. Have a great day. And I'd walk away, right? Like I wasn't there to proceed any further. It was just that. And funny enough, once in a while when you just do that, they come and looking for you and stuff because you're not attached to any outcome, which is pretty rare for that. But
so now the video game geek is now starting to get confidence and social proof and all that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I ended up meeting Neil Strauss, who wrote the book The Game.
Yes.
A lot of the pickup people in that community, it's a whole
Mystery
industry.
and
Eric and Owen and those different guys. I actually had tracked one year when I was 18 years old because I journaled everything. I approached over 2,000 women in 1 year.
Wow.
So I was pretty immersed with it.
What are the top 3 things you could share with people, whether it's approaching women or as those lessons apply to life or business, that you could share with people who are watching this and might think, what did you get from that time, Stefan? What are the top 3 takeaways you got from those experiences?
Well, I'd say, I've achieved a lot of things in my life, financial success, done fitness competitions. But the hardest thing, that's harder than making $1 million or doing a fitness competition, was that area of my life. Like that's so much harder because you're really dealing with deep inner fears that you have within yourself. And you have to really look at yourself in ways that what the response that you're getting, you have to look at yourself as being responsible for that response. It forced me to have to really look at how I communicate. Why did that person respond in that way, and what could I have done differently, to elicit a different response? Every part of myself I had to look at, which is not comfortable for people, because a lot of people, they're afraid to confront the truth because it's not comfortable. It doesn't feel good to look at yourself in that way and say that you suck or, you don't, how you look or how you present yourself. So it forced me to do that. But I'd say some of the biggest things I learned is I really learned about confidence and that it's an emotional state. That, for example, shyness is just an emotional state. And I had conditioned that my whole life. And that every time I was doing certain things, I was feeding into that. That was my emotional default and emotional home.
You would reaffirm it through that,
Exactly, yeah. And my peers, my family, my friends reinforced that identity.
Exactly, he's shy, Stefan's shy.
Exactly, so I was limited in that. So it wasn't until I realized, and actually I learned this from Tony Robbins, that confidence is a state, and you can condition that. And by going out a lot, and every approach that I did, it made me better. Like it conditioned this state of confidence within myself. Another thing that I got is I really looked at first of all, when you actually go out and approach people, it's never as scary as you think, right? Our mind creates these fears that are irrational.
Worst case scenarios.
Yeah, I never really had, women that would, say anything really bad to me, like maybe once in a while, but
or spit on you or slap you, or the worst case scenarios you imagine.
Yeah, we make it seem like, everyone's going to laugh at us or humiliated.
Right.
But usually, people are nice and maybe they're showing in their body language that they're not quite interested or whatever it might be. So, it taught me a lot about those fears, and that, I remember one time, because I got into coaching men, there's this one guy that had a fear of rejection. Most men do, but he had a big one. We're at a nightclub, and he says, I can't approach, I'm afraid of rejection. I said, great, so we have to get you now rejected. This is the only way we're going to overcome this. Let's make it the goal tonight to get rejected 10 times.
Yeah, I love that.
And we'd actually try to do it. So we're at a club, and I'm trying to walk up to groups of girls and just act silly and strange. And it was really hard to get rejected. Like, it's not easy. I'm trying to act silly and stupid and weird, but they're just laughing or, it's really hard to actually get rejected. So, I learned a lot from that, desensitizing yourself towards those things. I did a lot of other things like public speaking, Toastmasters and acting classes, improv classes, anything that would push me. I remember one time, I was going out a lot, but I was like, the confidence that I have, it's a situational confidence because I can do these approaches, but only when I have my friends around, like I have my wingman or whatever. And so I intentionally would put myself in situations where I'm going to the nightclub by myself, totally sober, so uncomfortable, so hard, but I realized if I can do it in that environment, then when I'm with my friends, or if I do have some alcohol, it's just gonna be so much better. Right. So I approached the whole thing from a self-development perspective. I felt that alcohol would be a detriment to my self-development.
So you wanted to be a master at this thing?
Yeah,
at that
I did.
Phase of your life.
Yeah.
So then how do you transition that? So you said you're 18, 19 at that time. what's the next sort of phase, or what's the next business, or what's your mind thinking at that stage you want to do with your life?
Yeah, so I made quite a big transformation in myself. There was a community in Vancouver that was growing. The book, The Game, Ben Neil Strauss came out around that time.
So you made a living doing this at the time?
Well, what happened was, I wasn't at the time. I was actually working. I sold cutlery for Cutco. I'm not sure if you heard of that.
Yeah, Cutco knives, right?
Yeah, I'd go to people's houses, and I was like looking for sales jobs so I can also improve my confidence.
Yeah.
I worked at a car dealership, like I was a lot boy. I worked with my dad. He eventually started paying me a little bit, so I did that with my dad for a bit. Which did not work out that well because we would always have conflicts.
Did you go to college?
I actually went to Kwantlen College, one class for an evening class for it was Introduction to Marketing, and I actually dropped out halfway through. And I realized it's just not for me.
Yeah.
Like,
and then became a multi-million-dollar marketer. Yeah.
And part of it, I wasn't too keen about school. Like,
Right.
I believe in education, improving yourself. That's who I am, and it's maybe. But people learn in different ways, and you have to have a motivation behind what you're learning. And I was learning also from marketing from someone that's never run a business or done marketing in their life. It was just regurgitating information from a textbook. And I later learned that the better way to learn marketing is to find people that are getting results and success and model and learn from them. That's more efficient than going to university for it. But anyways, at that time, I made quite a bit of big transformation myself. There was one guy in Vancouver who was building a dating coaching company, and he actually invited me to be an assistant dating coach. And he brought me on some trips, like we went to New York and Toronto, and I'd help out and help the guys push them to approach and meet women.
And you were making money doing this?
No,
Okay.
he would just pay for the travel and
Gotcha.
accommodations. But when I was 21, I was living in a house with roommates, and I had this one roommate that said, "Stefan, you should coach this. Like, you could help other guys with this." And he referred me to this client, this guy named Greg, that was willing to pay me $300 to take him out on a weekend. And I pushed this guy, his comfort zone. He approached women, got great results with it. And it made me realize I could actually make money doing that. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed making that impact in someone else's life. And especially because I had so much passion for it, because I know what I had to go through to conquer those things that I had to conquer. So,
and you can share with them the experiences that you had to overcome.
Exactly.
For them, you're not just teaching it from a different place or perspective. You
exactly.
Get it.
Yeah. So at 21, I started my first business. I started with 2 different business partners. It's called Lifestyle Transformations. We did coaching. We put on these free seminars, and we did this weekend boot camp where we take guys out. And I knew nothing about business.
I was just going to say, did you have any idea what you were doing, or absolutely
No idea.
not?
I just had a passion to help people. I wanted to serve.
Yeah.
And we just kind of learned from there. So we had
Were you guys profitable right away, or?
No, no. But it was a valuable learning curve.
Right.
We were never really profitable. We always kind of found ways to get by.
Right.
And we did this for maybe a few years, but I really had to learn how to be resourceful. Like every single month, we'd have to figure out a way to get new, people in seats and come out to our events.
Right. Figure out upsells, ways to add value, and
It taught me a lot. Taught me a lot of marketing though. Like I learned how to outsource things, like get a website done in India. I learned how to create like a sales page, how to do email marketing, how to do search engine optimization, how to use Facebook. So I was able to learn those skills, and I never really made more than like $2,000 in a month. And I just always lived with roommates. At one point, I lived on my friend's couch. So I just found ways to get by.
Yeah. And how old were you at this age? You said 21?
Yeah, 21.
So what year is this? Are we talking?
Well, I remember it was around 2008,
Gotcha.
because I remember the recession and all that was happening around then too. So I did that for a while. Learned a lot about business marketing, and it didn't feel like work either, which is great because it actually helped me with my personal life as well, running this business. And then, we kind of had to split up with the business. Like one, we made some crucial mistakes. We didn't factor in taxes, and we never put money aside for it. So at the end of the year, when we owed a certain amount of money in taxes, we had to work out a payment plan with the Canada Revenue Agency to pay taxes. So we're always operating the deficit.
Right.
And it actually took a while for us to be able to pay that back. So at a certain point, we're basically making no money because that money had to go towards paying off the government.
Yeah.
But we just weren't getting, it wasn't growing that. We made a great impact in people's lives. We had hundreds of clients, but it just wasn't scalable.
Right.
It was a lot of challenges that we faced with it. My business partners weren't as committed as I was, I felt. They were doing other things, and I felt I was putting in more work and effort than them. And I could tell they were losing interest in it and started doing different things. And then I came to the realization, I'm like, this is going down, and they're doing their own thing, and they're planning and preparing for it, and I'm not. And I realized that I learned all of these great marketing skills, and I had discovered, through my learning and whatnot, I read The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, that you can make passive income, you got to create information products, or you have to create automated sources of income. So I had the idea of creating an ebook. I wrote a dating ebook, which took me about a year to write. And I had to create the sales copy for it. I had to kind of put everything together with it.
And you had no idea what you were doing?
No idea what I was doing. I was just learning online and just kind of learning as I went. I went through some trainings and courses. That ebook didn't do that well, but I learned a lot from it. And then from there, I just kind of dabbled with different other ways of making money. Affiliate marketing, I created, I went through some trainings and I learned how to create these little blogs and search engine optimization around a certain product, and then I'd have an affiliate link to promote it. So for example, I created some blogs like around Vitamix Blender and BlendTech Blender and even the Fitbit. Fitbit was like brand new thing back then. And they had affiliate programs, and I'd create the blogs, I'd rank them, and I'd make passive income from doing that. Only challenge was it wasn't sustainable. It didn't last.
How much were you making at the peak of that?
I think I got to like $5,000 in a month. For me, it was like amazing because that was like
passive,
freedom.
Yeah.
And it didn't last that long though. And I had many just months of just not making anything. And
at this time, you don't have a YouTube channel. You don't have anything.
No. Yeah. So I guess the big breakthrough that I eventually had though, I had an experience where like everything went down to nothing. And I was in panic, and I didn't know what I was going to do because Google released an algorithm update that just changed everything. Because the websites I was creating, they weren't authority websites; they're these little thin blogs with like 5 or 10 articles, and that's what worked back then with Google. And I was selling, I had some ebooks and content that I had written, and I came to the realization I was looking at Amazon, and Amazon had their Kindle publishing platform.
Right.
And I thought, why don't I just kind of take and package some of the content I've already created, that dating ebook that I wrote like a year or two ago. Why don't I try to publish this on Amazon? Because Amazon is a search engine, just like Google. It's a paid search engine. People already have their credit card linked on Amazon. It's a one-click buy. They already have the trust in that relationship with Amazon, so they're not as skeptical versus buying from like a sales page. And I learned how to just kind of keyword optimize it, threw up a bunch of books, kind of left it for a while, and then I came back and I saw that I was making money. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is so much easier than what I was doing before.
Was it hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars?
At first it was a couple $100, and then I realized that I could make some tweaks and adjustments. I could modify the pricing. I could publish more books, and some of them I wrote myself before I eventually realized that I could hire writers to write books for me, and I could focus on the publishing and marketing. And I was able to scale it up to over $100,000 a year. And I was like 24 years old, 25 years old. And for me, that was life-changing. And, my goal at the time, because I read the 4-Hour Workweek, was just to get to a point where I'm free.
Yeah, exactly.
My passive income pays for my expenses. So at that point in my life, I just did nothing. I kind of semi-retired. I just watched movies and went out a lot.
How long did it take you from starting to do your first ebook to making your first 100,000 online?
Oh, man. I think it was like within a year. Yeah, I think it was maybe not completely, but like the first, like it scaled up at the beginning, but by the end of like month 7 or 8, it was over $8,000 a month. Yeah.
$80,000?
$8,000.
$8,000 a month. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
So now you're 24, retired.
Yeah, semi-retired, and interesting thing happened was I was bored. I felt unfulfilled.
Like Tony says, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure.
Yes, and I really went to, I love your show because it's about passion. I asked myself the question, what am I passionate about? What would I do that remove money from the equation? Because my motivator was money at the time, and I was in a state of desperation. But for me, that's not a sustainable motivator, because once you make the money, then what?
Yeah, exactly.
You need something else to push you and motivate
your brain won't let you off the hook if you're not fulfilled. Yeah,
exactly. And because I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, it always felt like a chore. It required discipline and willpower to get myself to work on this business. And so the moment that I alleviated that financial pressure, I had no motivation to continue working with it. And so that's when I asked the question, what am I passionate about? And I realized I love to learn, I love to grow, and I love to help people. Like I really get lit up back when I coached Greg and I saw the impact that he had by me pushing him to do something that he didn't think he could do, I got a lot from that. And that's when I realized that I should start a business and a brand around my passion. And so that's when I created Project Life Mastery. And
I love that.
I love improving every aspect of my life. And anything that I learn that benefits me, I have a passion for, and I want to share that with other people. And so I started that in January of 2012. And
Do you remember your first video?
First video, I think, was my goals video. So I actually first started it. I didn't think it'd be a business because I was making money already from my publishing. So I actually realized I could use this as a way to be accountable to my goals, because I found that if you have goals and you're only accountable to you, only you know about it, you can easily back out. There's no consequence.
Nobody knows, yeah.
Everybody knows about it. Now, when you back out from a commitment, there's more of a consequence. You don't want to lose their respect, their love. So I felt more pressure and accountability just from doing that. So I published that back in, I think, January 2012, my goals. I was also doing a fitness competition at the time, and I realized that I could use my blog and YouTube channel to share my progress, to be accountable. So I signed up for this WBFF. It's like a fitness modeling thing, and I worked with the coach and all that. So I shared that whole journey. And then I just did certain videos sharing things that I had learned that benefited me, and I was able to attract people to me. The one that kind of really put me on the map was my morning ritual video in 2012. I published that in March 2012, and that video blew up, got hundreds of thousands of views. And more than that was the impact that it made, because when I look at the comments that I got from that, people were sharing how that's changed their life. I would get private messages and emails. I'd get emails from people that are like long messages and emails of people sharing that I was suicidal. Like I was going to kill myself. And I watched your video and it totally changed my life. Wow. And I'd get these, like it was just such heavy stuff. Yeah, it's very different than just like a short 2-3 minute video. This is a video that was actually changing lives. It's more than just a piece of content online. So it felt amazing. Yeah. And it made me realize that I have a gift and that I have a message that's valuable for people. And that's kind of when I realized, like I had people reach out to me for coaching, so I monetized it that way, just doing some life coaching, some fitness coaching too. Was able to leverage what I learned from affiliate marketing to do some of that as well, sharing things that I had benefited from. And then, a big demand that I had with my audience, though, as I was building it up, is they wanted to know how I was making money online. And so I'd share with them. I do Skype coaching calls, and I teach them publishing and how they could do it. They get great results with it. And I eventually realized that I should publish a course teaching this to people, because part of me actually did not like teaching it. I didn't really feel like it wasn't my passion to teach publishing. I love self-development more. And I had a lot of my friends and family come to me as well, and I felt a lot of what I was coaching on Skype would just be the same repetitive thing, step by step.
Over and over and over.
Yeah, and so I was like, I'm just going to create a course so I don't have to teach this anymore. Like, people come to me, I'm like, just get the course.
Yeah, exactly.
And funny enough, I mean, the course did really well, and I still sell it to this day. It's evolved a lot, but people still do come to you, of course, for advice on publishing and everything. But
do you remember when you first started generating YouTube revenue?
Oh man, it was very insignificant, like the money from YouTube. I never really looked at that as anything worthwhile.
As a goal or anything?
Yeah, because I kind of did some Google AdSense type stuff before on a blogs that I had. But I knew that the money from that would be peanuts compared to affiliate marketing or creating courses or coaching and things like that. And I think back then too, I don't even know if YouTube had like an advertising platform. I
think they started in like 2015 or 2014.
So I don't even think they even had ads, or I'm not sure.
And the market wasn't that saturated on YouTube like it is now, right?
No, it is a lot easier to rank for things, for sure.
Yeah. So what advice would you have for people now who want to start their own brand or want to start their own show that have, because I'm sure you get people like that all the time. Oh, I've been wanting to start my YouTube channel, but I want to get the camera, or I want to get the right lighting or the right mic. Or what would be your best advice to people out there who want to start their own show, start their own podcast, or start their own thing, but they got all these limited beliefs as to why not now, or why the market's busy, or whatever their excuse is?
Yeah, well, first I think just start. Don't wait for everything to be perfect to begin. I started off with just a little digital camera, like a crappy camera, like a $100 camera on a stack of books. And in my morning ritual video, that camera fell over, and I just picked it up during the video. I lost my pen.
And it's still
I made many mistakes, and I actually realized that raw is more real and authentic. Authenticity is 100 times more powerful and important than perfect. Because if you're too perfect, people don't trust you. They start to look and like, well, what is that person really like? What do they really like behind the scenes? And the more authentic and just transparent and just being you, the better. And I think a lot of people don't realize that everybody, there's a niche for everybody, I believe. And there's people that will benefit from you. You just have to believe that. And a lot of the things that I share and teach, it's not anything revolutionary or that different than what's already been around. I mean, goal setting and motivation and rituals, every self-development expert teaches it, but it's relating to different people. Some people, for example, they connect and relate more to a Tony Robbins.
Right.
Other people don't like him. They think he's too loud. His style they don't connect with. They prefer maybe a Brian Tracy. He's more quiet. And they have a similar message, similar content, but it's the different style and just who you are that has value.
Right.
And I see a lot of people held back by that, thinking that, it's my accent or it's the way that I look or whatever it might be, but it's not true. I think that's actually an advantage that you have is your uniqueness and embracing that. I also think that creating content online, I mean, the internet is made up of content, but you get so much incredible benefit from it, regardless of whether or not anybody consumes and watches any of your content. Every video or content I create, I benefit from. Because when you teach something, you learn it and integrate it better within yourself.
Yes, very true.
When you teach something, you learn it twice.
Very true.
So for me, it's forced me to grow in all of these incredible ways by creating these videos. Also, it's actually helped me too. The first time you ever see yourself on camera, I'm sure you know, you're kind of, wow, is that what I look like? Do I sound like that?
Yep.
But you actually develop an awareness of yourself. You notice when you say or like, or and you can correct those patterns that you might have. So it allows you to become a better speaker, a better communicator, more comfortable, more confident with yourself. You're making a contribution and impact. So there's so much benefits you get. I think everybody should do it regardless of other people watching it. I think that you can't even make it too much, about you in a way. I think some people, they're a little bit too caught up in themselves and how they look and whatnot. And yeah, you can improve yourself, but create content that can benefit other people. I think that's a key thing. YouTube is a search engine. Identify the keywords. If you're first starting out, same thing with podcasting. Usually at first, you're going to target more long tail keywords, more specific niche keywords, because there's going to be less competition for it. And then you can, as you build your authority, you can target more short tail keywords.
Right.
But, another kind of mindset that I have is, there's two people that are trying to start a race, and the one person's waiting for everything to be perfect to start, and the other person, they just start running, right? And they might not be in the best shape, they might not have everything prepared, but that person will get further ahead than the person that's still waiting here.
Waiting for perfect.
And this person's gonna make mistakes, they're gonna fall, get themselves back up, but that's always been my mindset. I just learn as I go. And you don't have to have everything perfect. Just start with your phone, start with whatever you got. Start by just sharing what's on your mind, sharing your experiences, things that you've learned. If you read a book, if you go to a seminar, to share your top tips from that. And people will benefit from it, and people will relate to you and connect with you. And then you have your own little tribe, and then it just kind of grows from there.
I love that. So how long was it from when you started the YouTube channel to when you made your first million online?
I started my YouTube channel when I was about 25, 2012. I made my first time I became a millionaire in terms of my net worth when I was about 28 years old, not including the value of my business, because that's hard to value.
Right.
And then the year after that, I think I made my first million in a year.
Wow.
And my business has always been very low overhead. Started off just with me. Didn't have any paid advertising or anything like that. Just organic, free traffic from YouTube, blogging. Didn't really start podcasting till like maybe a few years later. Didn't really do much on social media. So just primarily from YouTube and blogging.
Nice. And then what's the number one way you found to connect to your audience? Because I'm sure you've heard of the 1,000 true fans concept, and now you have hundreds of thousands of true fans. But can you speak to how important it is to not just get views, but actually get deep views, connected views? What's the difference between somebody who just puts out content, but somebody who actually puts out content that makes people think and stick and know, like, and trust you?
Yes. Well, first, I'm a big believer in long form content. Big part of my brand is mastery, and I believe mastery, you got to go deep. And I know there's a lot of content creators, they try to create short form content, and usually that gets more engagement, more attention. but I'm more curious about the relationship and the depth that I can go with someone that watches my video, because the quality of subscribers, the quality of views, the quality of leads that you get from me is much more important.
Yeah.
So my best videos, like a lot of my videos, I don't try to do in 5 or 10 minutes. It's whatever long it takes for me to communicate that, and also to elicit some sort of emotion, because I want people to consume my content and feel inspired or motivated, or to think about things in a different way, or have a shift in their belief system or mindset, or to take action in their life. So there's always something that I want to, there's something I want to accomplish, an outcome that I have for the content that I have. It's not just putting out more information, because I believe that there's too much information out there, and it's not the information, it's actually doing and taking action with it that is what's going to lead to the changes and results. But long form content, going deep with my content with people, sharing stories, being authentic, being transparent. I started, back in 2012 sharing my goals, and then every year after that, I've continued sharing my goals publicly. And I've also done goals reports every month where I share my updates and progress. So people have been able to see my journey from the very beginning to where I am today. And
Wow.
that builds a tremendous amount of trust and connection with my audience.
Yeah.
Of
Because
course,
Stefan's like us. He's not just some
Exactly.
perfect person online. Yeah.
yeah, and sometimes when you're this multi-millionaire, this public figure, people can't connect with that. They connect more with the guy that's, maybe just kind of a few steps ahead of them.
Right.
Right. But if you're like the Tony Robbins and you're like way up here,
Mythical almost.
yeah,
to them,
it's inhuman, right? So, I try to humble myself. I just try to connect, be authentic with people, engage with people. When you're first starting off, you kind of have that advantage. You don't have as many comments, so you can engage with people more, versus when you get a lot, it's harder to keep up with that. I love live videos too, live streams, and also using social media, because now with stories on Instagram, now YouTube has stories as well. You can kind of share behind the scenes of your life.
Right, the raw stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and different aspects of it. And I think, one thing that's very important is to care. Like a lot of people, they make it about their views or how much money they're making. For me, that's never my main focus. My main focus is always, I want to serve people. I want to make an impact. I want to make a contribution. And I really believe by doing that and having that be your mindset, that comes across in your content and the way you communicate, the way you speak. People can feel it. And that leads to, I don't have to be great at marketing because of that. Because if I just care about people and I love them and I focus on adding value, I create so much content, you're so good they can't ignore you, that people are going to be curious about whatever products that I have, right?
That's the best marketing in the world, caring.
Exactly, yeah. I don't have to have some amazing sales copy or conversion rates or anything like
Or some
that, because
clickbait,
they're already now gone from a cold lead to a warm or hot lead, and then, it doesn't matter what I sell, they've already built so much trust and relationship that it makes it easy if I do offer something, or if I do share something that I've benefited from, or do affiliate marketing, because they know that I care about them. I've already provided so much value to people. So I think that's such a key component, is just loving and caring and trying to add as much value as possible.
And how important is it to post consistently?
Very important, yeah.
Really?
You do have to be consistent. When I first started off, it was once every week or two. Now it's about 3 videos a week. You do get rewarded on all platforms, whether it's Google or YouTube or Instagram, or whatever it is, to be consistent, the frequency of it. And just, the more that you publish, the more chances you're going to have of having a video that's going to reach people. I kind of look at it.
Exactly, yeah. Darts.
The more shit you throw against the wall, something will stick.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes, and you never know which video. I've had some videos I thought, man, this one's going to crush it. It's going to do so well. And then other videos, one video I did with Tatiana got over 4 million views.
Yeah, the Amazon one or something like that.
Yeah, at the end of the video, I was like, this might get 10,000 views, and got over 4 million. It blew up. So consistency and just trying to, I just try to do the best that I can with each video. Some are better than others, but the judge of that usually is the market and how they respond to it.
I love that. Now, 2 questions on that. At first, before you were monetizing, did you have a hard time? Because obviously now you've made multiple millions online, but do you remember a time in your life, and I'm asking for the content creators out there that might be sort of, they might have got the ball rolling, but they're trying to figure out how to monetize. Do you remember what it was like to be in that pinch? And what would your best advice be to people like that?
Yeah. Well, at the beginning, it's always slow. When you're first creating videos, articles, nobody's consuming it. I'd share it on my Facebook. I was actually very hesitant to do that at first because I didn't want to be judged. But once I did share it, I'd get some views, but it was only because my friends and family were just kind of curious what I was doing, right? So it is slow. I kind of always use the metaphor of like planting seeds, and you got to nurture it. You got to take good care of it. You're not going to see anything sprout right away, but as long as you're consistent, then it will sprout and it will grow into something. So you have to expect the fact that it is going to be slow at the beginning. You're going to put a lot of effort, time, energy into this, but you got to be focused on the long term. You got to delay that gratification, and that's the mastery mentality that I believe in. The monetization part was not hard because I think the hard part is getting traffic, getting followers. Once you have that, it's really just identifying what do these people need or what's a problem that they need to have solved. And because I was creating all this content, people would reach out to me and they'd ask me questions. So I was able to see from the consistent questions that people would ask, they'd say, Stefan, how do you make money online? I noticed that you're living this lifestyle, or can you teach me or show me this? And so for me, it was very easy to monetize that because, first I started answering the questions and then I just didn't have time to answer and help everyone in that way. So I'd said, well, listen, I can do coaching with you. We could work out some sort of deal, some sort of package. So I was able to easily monetize just from that.
Right.
And then from there, just see what that demand is from my audience, and then create the product or the affiliate offer or whatever it is. And I think this model I like a lot more. Like anytime I create a course or a product, I never guess. I never speculate. That's too risky for me. So I like to survey my audience. I ask them, what do you want? What are your challenges? What are your goals? How do you think I can best help or support you? If I were to create a product or service, what would you want it to include? Do you want videos, PDFs, audios? How much would you pay for it? Like I get all of that information, and then one thing I love to do is I actually share transparently the process of creating the course. I did that with my affiliate marketing mastery course.
Wow.
So I did a 99 designs contest to get the logo design and had my followers vote on it. I shared behind the scenes, okay, I'm creating this right now. And then what that does is, one, it makes you accountable that you actually have to get it out there, because now people are asking you, how's it coming and when is it going to be ready? And then also your followers feel involved in the creation process, and people are going to want to support something that they were involved in helping you create. So by the time I did launch it, I had people already lining up to buy it.
That's why it did so well.
Yeah.
And also for those listening, if you guys are interested in checking that out, you can check that out in the description below or whatever platform you're listening to check that out, because Stefan is the man when it comes to that stuff. But continue.
Yeah, so for me, it's building that audience first. I think once you build that, otherwise if you're trying to create a product or a course or whatever, you're guessing. You're trying to research here and there, but I found that even once you create something, you still have to modify it and tweak it based on once people go through it anyways. And so once people go through your product or whatever it is, you get that feedback, you tweak it, you modify it, you're always making things better and better.
So you would actually ask them in YouTube videos, comment in the description below any specifics you want, or did you put out a funnel that was like a survey type thing?
Yeah, a survey. Like
Gotcha.
Survey Monkey, Wufoo Form, Survey Gizmo. Another important thing to understand is YouTube, these social platforms, you don't have control over them. So I don't really view it as my YouTube channel. It's more of YouTube's channel. YouTube's just kind of lending the space to me, but I don't have full control over that. So I never really felt that was a business.
Gotcha.
And also platforms like YouTube, Facebook, it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, because even if you have 100,000, it doesn't mean you're going to reach all of them. Like you can publish a video, not everyone's going to see it. Versus back in the day, you would have more reach. Like I remember with Facebook, you had 100,000 fans, you post it, people are going to see it. But now Facebook, they want you to pay for advertising and everything to reach people. Yeah. So what I realized is that YouTube, Facebook, social media is not the most consistent way to reach people. The better way is to get them on your email list so you can build that deeper relationship with them. So I'd create something free of value that I'd offer at the end of my videos that people could opt into my email list to get. So it might be a free ebook, it might be a free video training, it might be the best videos that I have. And then once they're on my list, then I can continue to build that relationship by sending them emails of valuable content that I've created before or my newest stuff. And that was a better way to monetize through my affiliate marketing or to do a survey or to launch a course or a product. And I still leverage YouTube and social media, but I have control over the list. And that's still the most effective way, I believe, to communicate with people.
I love that. Now let's talk about some of the challenging times or some of the tough times. What are some of the most challenging obstacles you've had in your business or personal or whatever that maybe you haven't shared before that you could share with others to sort of, give them insight as to how Stefan from Project Life Mastery, who's this multimillionaire they might see as Mr. Perfect, the significant other, Tatiana in Panama, traveling the world and, helping all these people. But what are some insecurities you deal with now, and sort of how did you overcome them? Just to, and I ask this just to speak to people who, might have their own things and feel like, oh shit, Stefan's human too,
Oh, of course, yeah. I have challenges just like everybody does, and that's normal, right? That means that you're growing, because anytime you make changes or progress in your life, there'll be new challenges that come with that.
That's right.
And so I don't look at challenges and problems as a bad thing. I look at them as gifts, actually, that have been given to me that have valuable lessons that I have to uncover, or they're ways for me to grow and become more. Because I don't think self-development is just reading books or going to seminars.
Right,
it's
or doing
stepping
firewalks.
stepping outside your comfort zone is what forces you to grow. And overcoming these challenges, the adversity that you go through, that's what makes you have to actually apply all the things you've learned and grow from that. So some of the challenges, there's been many along the way with YouTube and being an influencer. By no means is an easy life that I live. It's way more complex than it was back in the day. The challenge is, I remember at first, it's you get some negative comments and judgment from people that you have to deal with. And, there's certain things I had to overcome there, realizing that oftentimes it has nothing to do with you, right? People, they're in their state, they're upset, they're angry, they're projecting those things onto you. And so those are things that I had to kind of go through. Another big challenge for me has always been, I've been a people pleaser, and I always want to make people happy, and I've always wanted to respond to people and reach out to them and help people get results. And for me, I got myself to a point in my life where I was just so stressed and so overwhelmed with things that I just could not keep up with all the emails and messages. And sometimes people will reach out to me and write emails and messages, and I don't respond back, and then they get upset and they send more emails and messages. You don't care about me, and all this sort of things you have to deal with. So I was never before, never had to go through that in my life, and I really had a hard time having boundaries in my life and being able to say no and be okay with that, and not having to be perfect or be a certain way for people, but just really being myself and the best that I can be. Challenges I've faced, growing a business as well. My business was growing so much, so fast, which is great, but I was more of a solopreneur. Right. And I was more like just a one-man marketer, and that can be great to make a certain amount of money, maybe a six-figure income, but if you want to grow to seven figures, multi-millions per year, you've got to build a team. And for me, my business was growing. I didn't have a strong enough foundation to support it. I didn't have enough help. And so I had to bring in management, I had to bring in an assistant, I had to bring in video editors and social media marketers and bloggers and email marketers, all this team that I had to learn all those skills. And of course, they make mistakes that can cost you a lot of money, and there's learning and patience you have to go through with that. And for me, I was never really a great manager. I was more the kind of person I just kind of go off the grid. I get really immersed and focused in a project. I could be unresponsive to my team at times because I'm just so passionate about what I'm doing. And so there's been a lot of challenges like that I've had to go through. Those are the biggest ones.
Knowing what you know now, what would you have done different on the way up? Would you have brought in a team sooner?
Yes.
What are things you would have done differently?
Definitely leverage more. I had a lot of fear around giving up control and trusting other people, I'd say. The belief that a lot of entrepreneurs have is that only I can do this, right? No one else can do this as well as I can, and that's just a limiting belief. It's a story, because there's people that are better at it than you, and they love it. It's more their area of expertise, and they love to go deep with it. And so, definitely leveraging a lot more. There's this. You're only going to get so far doing things by yourself. You have to really learn the benefit of a team. A lot of professional athletes learn this, like a Kobe Bryant, for example, or Michael Jordan. They realize they can get great stats and do well just putting up a lot of shots and points, but it's not until they get the other team involved and they become the leader that they can win championships.
Yeah,
so it's kind of that mindset that I had to learn. But yeah, definitely leveraging more. I think also one advice that I'd always give back to myself when I was younger is to invest in myself more. I've always, I think I had a lot of fear, and I was dabbling quite a bit when I was younger, but knowing what I know now, who I am today is because of all of the self-development that I've done, the coaches, the mentors, the courses, the trainings, the books, all of those experiences. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I put my money into is I'm always investing in myself, my self-development, my health, because I think your health is your wealth, get amazing returns from that. Investing into your relationships, because my parents went through a divorce when I was 18 years old, and they both had been divorced before that as well. And so I saw the pain of not having a great relationship, and I believe that the most important decision you ever make in your life is who you spend your life with.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for my experiences I had dating and relationships, because that helped me make a great decision and really make sure that I prioritize those areas of my life a lot more too. And I've learned, business and success can become a bit addictive. You can kind of get consumed by it. And that was a challenge that I faced, because I was so consumed by my business that I was spending more time with these strangers and clients than I was with my own friends and family. And so I really had to reset my priorities. And by business, there's a lot of demands that I had from that I had to learn to say no. Even being okay to say no to amazing opportunities that come up, because I was getting all these great opportunities that I can make more money with, but I had to say no, this is not what's most important. And really making sure I prioritize, I call it the life mastery blueprint, the different areas of life, but I always look as more important than money or success is your health, your mindset, your emotions, your relationships, your spiritual life. Those things you're going to get greater returns from than you ever will from just making more money. Because at a certain point, more money is just more money in the bank, more investments, more real estate, more stocks. It's not going to make as much of an impact versus putting time, energy, and attention into your relationship, your health, your friends, your family, your spiritual life. So I've always tried to make sure that I have a good balance and I prioritize those areas of life no matter what.
I love that. Now let's talk about the relationship part, because you and Tatiana are known online for traveling the world and making money online and doing all these cool things. Can you talk about a little bit about your guys' story, how you guys met, and just sort of some of the lessons you've learned that are some of the most important things when it comes to maintaining a powerful and a personal development based relationship?
Sure. So I met Tatiana on Tinder, right? Which is a place that most people don't expect.
Yeah.
And I think Tinder's changed a lot. I think it's more people have a certain perception of it now. But back when we met, she was only on it like for a week.
How long have you guys been together now?
About 4.5, almost 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So we met through that. Thank you. Yeah. And we were just kind of messaging at first, and she was downtown Vancouver, and we got together. We went for a walk on the beach. She had no idea that I was a YouTuber or anything like that. She didn't actually know about that for like weeks later.
Wow.
So I didn't share any of that with her, but we just connected.
Why didn't you share any of that with her?
Well, I mentioned it to her, but she didn't really know what that meant.
She didn't really care.
Most people, it's funny when you mention that you're a blogger or YouTuber, they're like, is that a job? Can you make money doing that?
Yeah.
So, we went for this a walk. It was the summertime in Vancouver, and we just connected really deeply. Talking about the vision, the future of our lives, and we really liked each other a lot. Like, we just connected in an amazing way, and she was actually going on a trip to Brazil in 3 weeks, a volunteer trip. She has family there as well, but she was going to volunteer to work with kids and everything. And that was one thing that I really was attracted to with her, because I know you're follow some Tony Robbins stuff, but Tony has the 6 human needs, and I've always been aware of what is driving someone, whether they're driven by significance or if they're more driven by contribution or love.
Right.
And so Tatiana was someone who's driven by love and contribution. And that was an area of my life that was important. I love to contribute, make a difference. And I was also getting involved in some philanthropy work, building houses and schools. And so she was going to Brazil, which is great. And we tried to spend as much time as we could before that point. But I realized that she's going away for 2 months, and we've only been dating for 2 to 3 weeks, and it's summertime, and it's like we haven't become an item or a couple yet.
Right.
And so there's some risk that she could go away, and I'm going to be here in summertime, and we might not, things could change in that time frame. So I actually was training for a fitness competition. This was 2014. And I decided the day after my competition, I was going to go to Brazil and visit her.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So
what did she think? You were crazy, or she loved it?
Yeah, she was blown away by that. And so I went to Rio de Janeiro, met her there, and we just fell deeper in love. And we actually decided before that we were going to, this is serious. We want to make sure that we stay together and whatnot. And she, at the time, was going to university. She was working as a waitress. She was working at a bank at one point. And I kind of exposed her to this whole world of online business. Like, she never knew that was a possibility. And I had a certain lifestyle. One of the conflicts we had was that I had the freedom to travel, but she didn't. She was going to school and everything. So she had an interest in building an online business. She, by nature, is an entrepreneur. She has ideas. She's very disciplined, takes massive action. And so I kind of got her into it a little bit. She had an idea of selling on Amazon. So we went through a course together called The Amazing Sell Machine. We both went through it in 2014. And I was more kind of doing it to support her and try to keep up with her and stuff. But she did really well with that. And
yeah, I saw that. There was like a viral video, like how to make $40,000 a month on Amazon or something like that.
Yeah, so that was maybe like 2 years, I guess, after that, 2016, I think, we did that video, or 2017 maybe. But yeah, you know, she got into that at first, and you know, she was always just very open-minded, which has been great, open to self-development, open to everything. And so I shared these things with her, and she's very self-motivated. Like, she, you know, I kind of use this example. For me, I had to overcome all of these things to become successful, like all these inner demons and fears and doubts,
limiting
and
beliefs,
laziness and lack of all these things. She's, in a way, kind of had like a really good foundation that when she was introduced to building a business, she just crushed it. Like, she's never had the same challenges that I had to go through. So she's done really well. I mean, she's had lots of struggles and ups and downs along the way, of course, too. But we were just so much alignment with those things, like the contribution spiritually. We're both Christians, business-wise, self-development-wise. You know, we both love learning about relationships, like everything. So I feel we're so identical, and we actually have to consciously spend time away from each other, because sometimes you become so dependent on someone,
right,
and you meet each other's needs so much that you got to have polarity in a relationship. So she's got to be around other women, I've got to be around other men, and kind of have a bit of distance, because it's not healthy to be so dependent just on your partner as your sole source of your needs. But yeah, it's been amazing. It's been very effortless. We never argue or fight. We just get along well. We the self-development background and what we do there has been incredibly beneficial, I think, to having a great relationship, because we know that no matter what we go through or whatever goes on, that we can improve it. We can grow. We've worked with coaches and gone to different events and experiences that will serve our relationship for many years to come.
I love that.
In fact, how about we just have Tatiana come join? Is that okay? She can maybe share with you.
Oh, yeah. Sure, that would be cool.
Hey, do you want to come join us?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. So this is my lovely fiance, Tatiana.
Wow.
You met before.
Very cool. Thanks so much for being on the show
Yeah,
today.
thank you.
Yes. So it's very cool. So actually, we had Grant and Elena Cardone on, so this is going to be a cool opportunity. So your name's Tatiana.
Yes.
And Stefan tells us that you guys met on Tinder.
Yeah, yes.
And initially, you guys had a lot in common, but you also weren't very familiar with personal development.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a bit about how you sort of got integrated, what your first initial thoughts were of Stefan, and sort of how the relationship was from your perspective? We heard his side of the story, so can we hear your side of the story?
Yeah. Okay, walk down memory lane. So when I first met Stefan, I knew he was very different. And at that time, I actually really wasn't looking to form a relationship with someone. But I knew he was special. And just by the conversations that we had, when we did meet for the first time, it was just a spontaneous meeting because I was in his vicinity. I was downtown Vancouver getting my Brazilian passport renewed. And I had never really spent time downtown before. It was kind of like a foreign city to me, even though I lived only an hour away. And so I messaged him and I asked him if he wanted to meet up. And he did. And so I had a couple hours to kill, but it ended up, we spent like maybe 5 hours hanging out and just walking and talking. And I was wearing heels and I had blisters and I didn't even care because we just got along so well. And we had just such deep conversations that I had never had with someone who I just met before. And so I was very attracted to that. I was attracted to him, but I was also attracted to kind of his spiritual side and how he was not just thinking of like the short term, he was really looking long term. He had goals and aspirations. And it was very evident to me when we first met. And we did have this one instance where we sat on this big log at the beach And that's when we had this conversation about, okay, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And he asked me that question. I was like, first of all, I thought that was a little bit strange to be asking on your first date.
That was literally the first date.
And it wasn't really a date. It was just, let's meet. But and he asked me that. And so I just thought about it and I came up with my answer. And then he had an answer fairly similar. So immediately we knew that we had a similar vision. And so it was really, really, I think it was meant to be.
Wow, very cool.
Yeah.
And then right away, did you guys see each other as, serious, for life type relationship, or did you guys take it slow? I mean, what lessons can you guys share with others there from that first encounter, the connection there?
Yeah, it's hard to say that I had that kind of certainty at that point, but, I knew that we were in alignment, and I knew the importance of that. Going back to that question, I also asked, because I'm into law of attraction and manifesting things and having a vision for your life. So I wanted to know what's your vision for your life? And if you could have it any way that you wanted it to be with no fear or limitations, what would that be? What would that look like? What would your perfect day look like? And I had her share that, and I shared that myself, and we both had a similar vision. We both had similar goals. We both had similar values we both wanted to make an impact in the world. We both wanted to grow and to travel and to do these, similar things. So I think, I like to kind of think that I knew that this was the person that I wanted to be with. And then as we just went deeper and deeper, I knew this was the one that I wanted to be with. And I think also the experiences that I had before of dating and meeting women, that actually helped me have more clarity on, wow, this person's different. This is the person that I've never met someone like this before. So that was a powerful experience.
So what are some of the rituals that you guys have found that you guys integrate together? And both of you guys can chime in here. What are some of the rituals that you guys found have been important to make your relationship not just exist, right? Because, we all know people who have relationships that survive. Very few relationships thrive. So what are some rituals or some things you guys do that you guys could share with the audience, to impart for them so they could apply to their relationships and make them work?
Yeah. You want to go for it?
Well, we do have a relationship book.
A ritual that we created. And we started this early on in a relationship within like the first month and a half.
The first month, I think, yeah.
Wow, it's called a relationship book?
Well, so one thing, so a relationship, just like any area of your life, you got to focus on it, you got to improve it. And we actually first started creating a bucket list. So we created this book and we thought, what are all the experiences that we want to have one day, right? So a bucket list of we want to travel to this place or that place. And then we also thought, what's a vision that we could have for a relationship? Like, what's the vision of family, of impact, of growth, of love, of passion, all of that. And we actually wrote it out into a book. So we had our vision, we had our bucket list, and then every week, whenever we would go on dates and hang out, we'd try to check off something on that bucket list and always try to think of new things.
Oh, wow.
And then it kind of evolved into this ritual that we created where, we believe, as with Tony Robbins' work, of meeting each other's needs. And so we want to make sure that we're meeting each other's needs on a regular basis. So we would check in with each other and go through this process every week or two. And we'd ask her, I'd ask Tatiana, say, Tatiana, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much certainty do you feel in this relationship? And she'd respond back, great. How much uncertainty, variety, excitement? How significant do you feel in this relationship? So I'd go through these needs, how much connection and love, how much growth, how much contribution. And then if something wasn't being fulfilled at like a level 9 or 10, then I could take note of that and say, okay, what would have to happen or what could I do to make that a 10 for you?
I love that.
So we're both focused on meeting each other's needs, and this is very proactive because if it ever did get to a point of like a 7 or a 6, we could do something about it versus a lot of relationships, it just goes down to like a 2, and they could have prevented that by having a regular check-in.
Yeah, systems in place.
Yeah, when we went to Brazil, I went to visit her. One of the books that we both read was called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. And we have these 5 languages of words of affirmation, physical touch, acts of service, quality time, and gifts. And everybody values, 1 or 2 more than the others. So we both identified our love languages and we incorporated that to the ritual. On a scale from 1 to 10, how much words of affirmation do you feel that you're getting? How much physical touch? And then that way I can improve myself. So we always just believe that, we want to be the best that we can for each other. The more that we each individually grow and meet each other's needs, then the better relationship it's going to be. But we also ask each other questions. So some of the questions we ask are, what's great about a relationship? What do we love about your partner? What can I do to better serve and support the relationship? And just by asking these questions of each other, it causes us to always focus on growing it. And for me, it's like a simple thing because, most businesses, they have quarterly team meetings where you're working on the business, not in the business.
That's right. And
this is the same way. We're working on the relationship, not always in the relationship. So we're taking a step back. We're trying to make sure that we're both fulfilled. And by doing this, we never really had any challenges or big fights or really big issues because I think we're just both similar, but we're always trying to mitigate anything that might not be as great as it could be, and we're always trying to improve it and grow it.
Before it bubbles up and becomes a big
Yes.
issue. Like they say, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of medicine.
Yeah.
Any thoughts that you have, Tatiana? on it?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's very preventative. And we're both very calm people too, so we don't get irritated by small things. And we also know that we've committed to knowing that, we have good intentions. So no matter what happens, no matter what he said, what she said, it's always with good intentions. And when you know that at the back of your mind, then whatever action it was that was done, maybe I interpret it wrong, or maybe it wasn't meant to be like that. You don't just assume things. You always think about, okay, what else could this mean? Because I know that no matter what he does or what he says, it's done with good intentions within our relationship. But something else that was really important for us is polarity. So we learned about polarity pretty early on, actually, but it's something that is just so important because, we have the feminine and the masculine energies within us, and it doesn't matter your sex, we all have feminine and masculine. And what we learned is that if we want to have passion, he has to be in his primary energy, which is his masculine, and I would be in my feminine, or vice versa. But it can't be two of both in feminine, both in masculine. You can have that, but then maybe you're more friendly, it's fun, it's giggling, right. You're having a fun evening. But if you want that passion, you want to have one masculine, one in feminine, whatever it is, whatever the role is. And so we learned that, okay, maybe sometimes I'm more in my masculine, and how is this impacting my relationship? And how can I turn on my feminine when I want to? And how can I turn on my masculine when I want to? So learning to manipulate the energies. I think that's been really, really important for us as well, because it definitely does help us maintain passion and the love and those energies.
I love that. Now, to people listening who might hear that and go, okay, that sounds like too much work, right? Because for us, it makes sense, right? We're in the personal development world, we get it. But there's a lot of people out there that go, whoa, that's like, I would scare the other person away.
Yeah.
But can you talk about how important it is, although it might sound silly on the surface, how important it is to have these systems and what happens if you don't?
Well, like I said, I believe your relationship is one of the most important decisions you ever make. And it's something that, affects a lot of people's lives in so many different ways. And, I always look at relationship is one of the areas of life you get some of the greatest returns from. Like, I've had success of making a lot of money, but the highest of high that I've ever felt in my business pales in comparison to what I can get here. Like the love, the passion, the intimacy, all of that. And I think a lot of people that never experienced the levels of that. And, there's different levels to everything, even with like happiness. There's happiness and joy, but then there's fulfillment, then there's bliss, and then there's ecstasy. There's different levels you can experience, right? And I think a lot of people, they haven't experienced the depths that you really can in your relationship, that love and that passion. I think a lot of people, what happens is they don't feel fulfilled in their relationship, or they have certain needs that aren't being met, that they go elsewhere, their business or money, to try to get, instead of realizing you can fulfill that here. But, it's just, for me, relationships amplify the experience of life. When I have victories in my personal life, it's amplified because of the relationship, versus when I was single and alone, I didn't really have someone I could share that with, the journey of it.
Right.
But yeah, I just think it amplifies things. Of course, you have to be open and vulnerable, which is challenging. I think in a relationship, you're going to grow so much because you have to be vulnerable in that way. But it's just opening up to your partner. I think getting that alignment. I think we're just both on the same page with that. And for people that are watching, I can understand it might seem a little bit strange, but I think it's just kind of taking those steps in that direction, starting with some self-development, learning about relationships. There's plenty of books and resources out there. And the deeper that you go, the more that you can open up to these things and experiment and try it. But for me, it's an obvious thing because I think, well, people do this in their business. Why not in their relationship? Like a business always is growing, but I think that in relationships, sometimes people, they lack that vision. At first, maybe the vision is to be with that person or to get married or then to have kids, but then what's the vision after that? And I think you always have to have something you're moving towards, because if you don't have something you're moving towards, a vision, then you're not going to be compelled to put in the effort and the work. And I think when you have a vision, you're like, that's what I want. We can grow and improve a relationship to this point. Then the work and the actions and the things you do will, you're motivated to do that.
Yeah.
But another piece too is getting references of great relationships.
That's right. I agree with that
A lot of people that I know, for example, that are married, sometimes you hear, once you're married, then, once you have kids, it's all downhill. And there's a lot of those negative beliefs that aren't true. And it's just because they don't have enough references of great relationships that are out there. And I think when you find them, which can be pretty rare, then it shows a possibility like, wow, that's the standard that I can strive for. And that motivates you to get there.
I love that, because you said your parents were divorced.
Yeah.
You probably didn't have healthy references, so you had to consciously seek them out to create this.
Yeah.
Tatiana, how do you feel about that? How important it is to have rituals like this in place. What was your initial perspective when Stefan brought this stuff up? Were you like, okay, this is kind of weird, but I'm up for it? I mean, what was your journey in seeing the power of these rituals in relationships?
I thought it was awesome. This was all very new to me, but I'm very open-minded. So when he introduces a new idea or a suggestion, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try this out. And so it was exciting for me. And I thought it was great that he was actually interested in setting processes up or doing these things to really improve our relationship. So I was definitely all for it.
I love that. How about any challenges that you guys deal with? Maybe there's, obviously there's things in private, but is there anything you guys would be open to share with the audience about, ongoing things or, imperfections in the relationship that go on that you could, use to give advice to others who are in their own relationship? Anything you guys currently struggle with that maybe haven't shared before?
Yeah, well, I think, one that I mentioned is that, sometimes we spend too much time with each other. And it kind of is a bit of a challenge because a lot of relationships, you might live with that person, but then each person, they go off to work each day. So you're away from your partner, but because we travel together and we work from home as well, that we're like around each other 24/7. And so sometimes I think, just like with any relationship, sometimes you get a little bit complacent. The law of familiarity, you stop putting in maybe those little things that you might have done before, like the romance and surprising your partner, and you just kind of get a little bit comfortable.
Right.
And we kind of notice for ourselves, we're both naturally introverts. And so we enjoy being alone. We recharge that way. And sometimes we have to push ourselves to like, one is like, hey, let's kind of separate from a bit. Like, I'm going to go to a coffee shop today, or, you stay, with your family in Vancouver a little bit longer. Just kind of have some of that distance, I think is healthy for a relationship. And just kind of having that polarity. I know, like, for example, Tatiana, sometimes in business, you can be in the masculine mode, right? So you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah. Well, what makes that so challenging too is that we enjoy each other's company. Yeah. And so spending time together is really, really easy. And it's actually very comfortable. We've developed a level of comfort together that maybe it's not so healthy. And so instead of, separating and doing things separately, we're always doing them together, even though we know it's better for us to do things separately. So we know it's right.
We go to the gym together. We like together.
So it's the opposite. Most people have a hard time, trying to get together. You guys have a hard time trying to stay apart.
Yeah. And then, for me with my business, like I'm definitely a lot in my masculine energy, and it definitely does serve me, and I love it. But then I don't have really a defining line of when business is over and when to switch off that masculine energy. So I really do have to practice and have rituals for myself to help me ease into that feminine energy again, be more in that playful mood. Because, we both work from home. So it's not like I come home from work and it's a new energy. It's really, this is where I work. This is where I sleep. This is, exactly where we do everything. So it's having kind of that separation, both with us and also separation with work so that we can balance the energies.
I love that. And then how about in terms of maybe particular situations where, something was an issue and it was communicated and then it was resolved? Can you give one specific example, maybe each of you or something like that? Anything off top that comes to mind?
I mean, usually we're very good at communicating with things, or if there is something bothering someone, we do we'll kind of be like more reserved, I guess, about it until you're comfortable to talk about it, discuss it. But
So a lot of open communication, really.
Yeah.
And if not in the moment, because in the moment sometimes you're caught up in a certain
Heated,
state,
yeah.
then usually like the next day we'll discuss it. But it's pretty rare.
And one thing we learned too is that, for example, myself, if I am upset about something or whatever the case is, he knows now that I like to be alone in those moments. I don't really like to talk about it. I like to wait an hour, 2 hours. I like to have time by myself. Initially, in the beginning, we didn't understand that about each other. And so he would come to me and try and say sorry or whatever it was and problem solve. But for me, I just wanted to have that space. So I think it was just learning what works for each other. It's going to be different for each person. But we really don't have a lot of disagreements or arguments or conflicts or anything like that.
Yeah, I'd say like usually when it is, it's never with the other person. Like it's
Yeah.
more something going on with me. Like I'm stressed, I'm tired, I got irritated, I got annoyed, I said something stupid. Things like that I always take responsibility for. And even if there's something, sometimes I notice that you kind of go into this blame mode where like, oh, they didn't, they should have known to reach out to me and do this, or they should have handled that and, not, canceled that plan with whatever, or they forgot to make that call, whatever.
Or they should have said this or done that.
Yeah, I always look at with myself, but I also look at, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? Do I want to be right or do I want to be in love? And so even sometimes where I'm like, you feel justified that it was their fault or they messed this up.
Right.
I always take responsibility for it. And she does the same way where I'm like, what? I'm sorry. Like, I could have done this better. Like, I misinterpreted this. I know you're under stress, whatever it is. But we're very quick to like, it's the ego that gets in the way that wants us to be right. But what do you accomplish by that? It's just kind of silly. So for me, I'd just rather be happy and in love. And even it doesn't matter who's right or wrong about any of those things. We just both take responsibility for it. We go back to love and meeting each other's needs. And a big part of our relationship is just that love and giving to each other. It's realizing that sometimes we're in this mode of selfishness and I'm making this about me right now. And it's just releasing that and just, what can I do for you? So.
And when you're stressed, everything is amplified. So if I'm stressed about work or whatever it is, and then, Stefan says something or does something and it's really nothing bad, but I might overreact to it just because I'm in that state. So we just have that consciousness, that awareness that when we are in maybe a not so great state, then it's like we really do have to be conscious of how we're interacting with each other because it can be hurtful. So we try to just manage our state, and a hug solves a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you guys this then, in closing on the relationships topic. What would be your guys' best piece of wisdom? So we'll do it one at a time. But what would be your best piece of wisdom to somebody out there? Maybe they're in a relationship, maybe they're not. Maybe they're an entrepreneur. Most of our audience are entrepreneurs, but whether they're an entrepreneur or not, I'm sure that the advice is still relevant. So what would Stefan's best piece of advice be to somebody out there looking to find the relationship of their dreams or cultivate the relationship of their dreams? What should they look for? What should the mindset be? What would your best advice be on that, Stefan?
I would say that understanding that you are the one that is responsible for your happiness and that you can't put the burden on your partner to be the one that's making you happy. I think that a great relationship comes from two people that are first happy. They're fulfilled themselves. Two happy people to come together, you're going to have a great relationship. If you have two people that are miserable and angry and upset or negative states, and they come together in a relationship, then you're going to have that kind of relationship. So it starts with you, and I think you wanting to be the best that you can be for your partner. The way I look at it, one of the motivations I have of always taking good care of my health, my body, my business, being on purpose in my life, my mindset, my emotions, is that's a gift that I can give to Tatiana, right? So I want to be the best that I can be so that she deserves to have the best version of myself and vice versa. So I really make sure that I put a lot into myself. And also, the way I look at it is people, sometimes they go to relationships to kind of fill a void. And I believe you can fill that first within yourself, that you can still meet your own needs. And that's why I love having a ritual. I think having a ritual in your life, if you're going to a relationship to get love and connection, first give that to yourself. Like whatever, people in relationships, they feel that connection, or they get someone that gives them compliments and love, but you got to give that to yourself first. So a simple ritual as someone could do is each day in the morning, look yourself in the eyes and in the mirror and say, I love you, and appreciate yourself and give compliments to yourself. When you love someone, that's what you do for them. When you love someone, you spend quality time with them, and you got to do that for yourself. So you got to build that relationship with you, spend quality time with you, do things that you love and enjoy, whether that's taking a bath or getting a massage, but fill up yourself. And I think that if you can do that and your partner does that as well, now you're in a place where you're not trying to get something from your partner. You're not, needing this and blaming them because they're not giving this to you, but you're both full and you're abundant, and you can both give and contribute to one another. So the advice that I'd have is to develop yourself, give yourself that love, that connection, whatever you're trying to get from your partner, and be the best that you can be to give that gift to your partner.
I love that. So be happy first, and then give from that abundant place. Yeah. How about you, Tatiana? What would be your number one piece of relationship advice that you've learned?
I would say that if you are in love with someone, you have to decide whether you are going to love this person unconditionally. And if you are, then you can't be trading. I think it's, I've done it in the past, and it is not easy to always be perfect, but you can't trade in a relationship. He did this, so I'm going to do this. He didn't do this, so I'm not going to do this, because that's withholding love. And I think one thing that we make sure that we always do is we never withhold love from each other. And love can appear in so many different shapes and forms. And so I really do think that that is one of the biggest things that does help our relationship. We always give love, we choose love, and we never trade.
I love that. Powerful. Now, in closing, before we do the game, I want to ask you guys are both successful entrepreneurs in your space online. And again, for people interested in learning more about them, you can check out the links below. They have awesome programs and courses and amazing content online you can check out. But I want to ask you guys individually, what's your best 60 seconds or so piece of advice on business? So we'll do Stefan first and then Tatiana. So Stefan, knowing what you know now, the ups and downs, the roller coasters, and obviously you have more goals along the way, but in going from zero to becoming a multi-millionaire, the ups and the downs, what would your best piece of advice be to maybe the young Stefan, or maybe the young person listening to this, or maybe an older person listening to this who wants to finally make their life work, make that business work, make their life a masterpiece instead of being a victim of it? What would your best 60 seconds piece of advice be?
I'd say find a niche that you have a passion for, because that passion that you have for it, if your motivation is just money, that's not going to be sustainable. But if you love what you're doing, that you feel this is your mission, it's your purpose, you have a passion for it, you're going to wake up early, you're going to stay up late, you're going to put in what is necessary to do it. I teach a lot of people how to make money and how to start a business. And people often ask, well, Stefan, which business should I start? Should I sell on Amazon? Should I do this or that? And my answer oftentimes is whichever one that you have the passion for and you believe in, because that's the one you're actually going to do. You're going to take action with, right? Versus if I try to tell you, here's a great opportunity, or here's a great idea that you should pursue, but you don't have that passion for it, you're not going to do what's necessary for it. So you will, without a doubt, go through ups and downs, challenges. It will be a roller coaster, but I believe that passion that you have for it, that's what's going to get you through that. So really make sure you have a passion for it and go deep. Don't just stay at the surface. Whatever niche or market, I believe you've got to understand it and know it better than anyone. If it's golf, then go to the library, go to the bookstore, read all the golf books, all the golf magazines, know the competitor, go deep with that so that you really understand that market, their needs, the problems that you can help solve, and become a master of it. Don't just dabble or stay at the surface. Go deep and become a master.
Beautiful. How about yourself, Tatiana?
I think that whatever it is that you decide to do, just stick to it. Stay committed, because I think it is so easy with all of the different opportunities that we have these days to, dabble in this, start this, end it, start this, start something new. So, there are people you start doing retail arbitrage, and then you say, oh, let me do online arbitrage. Oh, let me do FBA private labeling. Let me do affiliate marketing. And we go through so many different stages and dabble in all these different businesses. But if you were to stick with the thing that you started in the first place, you would be so much further ahead. And so I think just being consistent, sticking to it, and it is going to be challenging. There will always be challenges with business, but that's part of the process. So stay committed and be in there for the long run.
Powerful, powerful stuff. So in closing, we always play a game called First Things First. And by the way, I love that advice from both of you guys on the business stuff. But we play a game called First Things First. So the way the game works is I'm going to rifle off 10 words or phrases, and then you tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
Okay.
So I'm going to play with you guys one-on-one, and then you guys get to play with each other. It's going to be pretty
All
cool.
right.
Okay, so first I'll play with Stefan. So again, the rules are I'm going to say 10 words or phrases, just one at a time. Then you just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind, like a relation game, if you will.
Okay.
The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, cool. First word, money.
Freedom.
Project Life Mastery.
Mission.
Tatiana.
My love.
Passion.
Serving.
Obstacles.
Opportunities.
Your story.
Inspirational.
Your legacy.
Impact.
Health.
Wealth.
The rock bottom times that you've dealt with where you were alone and didn't know how to get out.
Breakthroughs.
Last one, you ready? Your future.
Exciting.
I love it. Very cool. Now, Tatiana, it's your turn. So I'm going to play with you, and then you guys are going to do it with each other.
Okay.
Cool. So 10 words or phrases. You get the rules, right? 10 words or phrases, first word that comes to mind. So the first word is Stefan.
Love.
Business.
Excitement.
Money.
Freedom.
Relationships.
Passion.
Rituals.
Peace.
Passion.
Joy.
Obstacles.
Growth.
Business.
Business. Fun.
Love it. And then the last one, you ready? What do you want you and Stefan's love story to be indicative of? So what do you hope people learn from you and Stefan's story?
One word.
One word or phrase, the first word or phrase that comes to mind.
That true love exists, as corny as that sounds.
Very cool. Now you guys get to go with each other. So you guys can decide who goes first. You do 10 words or phrases with her, and then she'll play 10 words or phrases with you.
Okay. Any words or the same ones that you had?
Any words. The only rule is that you can't repeat yourself twice in the answers, but any words. So you can use the same words, different words. Feel free.
Okay. Travel.
Adventure.
And do I keep going or?
You keep going, yeah. It could be a word or a phrase in response. It doesn't have to just be one word.
Okay. Love.
That's what life's about.
How about self-development?
Passion.
Family.
Great people. This is kind of tough.
Well, that's what's powerful about the game is that you learn a lot about a person because they have to dig deep and condense the bottom line, you know?
Yep. Our future.
Very exciting and adventurous.
Your mission.
Powerful.
Contribution.
The most amazing feeling and the most amazing opportunity in the world.
Lux Curves.
A body shapewear.
Lux Biz.
Passion project.
God.
Everything.
Is that 10?
It's 12.
That's 12.
I don't want to stop you there.
All right.
All right, Tatiana, it's your turn with Stefan.
All right. it health?
Wealth, but foundation for everything.
Fitness?
Capacity to endurance, strength, just be able to push through things.
Interviews?
Opportunity to connect, to learn, and to serve.
Okay. YouTube?
Credible platform to share your message.
Social media?
Credible platform to connect and to reveal your life, to share your life with others.
Followers?
Human beings, people.
Dessert?
Dessert, enjoyable. It's good.
Scary movies?
Excitement, thrill.
Best friends?
Your team. Team and family.
And yoga?
Flexibility and just release.
Cool.
I love it.
Cool.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for enjoying this episode. And be sure to check out Tatiana and Stefan and all the cool programs they have in the description below, as well as check out his affiliate mastery course and some of the other stuff in the description below. We'll see you guys next time, and until then, thank you for being one of the passionate few.
If you guys enjoyed that video, be sure to hit that subscribe button right now, because every week we bring you the very best in personal development content, interviews, and insight to help inspire you to take your life and your dreams and make them a reality. And also, if you want to know how to book dream guests the same way I have, you can check the link below for my top 3 secrets. So if you have a podcast or a show or whatever it is and you want to collaborate with them, if you click that link below, I'll give you those top 3 secrets to help you get in touch with anybody. And also, don't forget that The Passionate Few is available on media platforms as well. So you can subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, thank you for being one of the passionate few.